I am, hey guys, I think I started a little too soon. This is Nicki Connor. I am an agent with the Mega Agent Collective. I co-own Legacy Real Estate Team here in Lake Jackson, Texas with my business partner, Christen, who's joining me today. And I'm also a certified mentor with EXP. So today I've invited Christen to come. Last month, I had Ashley on and she talked about emotional healing, and she is an emotion code coach. And today I asked Christen to come because she has also been on her own healing journey, and as have I. And so I thought it would be a great time for us to discuss that a little bit, and so that you could hear from someone personally who has been dealing with their stuff. So Christen, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, my name is Kristin English. I live here in the area with Nicki. We, like she said, own a real estate company together. We kind of go way back from cooking casseroles in our kitchen and selling them, chasing chickens and all sorts of stuff, to
homeschooling.
Yeah, carpooling to now doing real estate and all sorts of other crazy ventures. But one thing I have 3 kids and just celebrated my 24th wedding anniversary. And my oldest daughter just got married last year. So just that's where I'm at in life. But I think that one of the biggest things that's been happening with me in my life, and we've kind of just had to do it together because being in business, our stuff would get on each other. And so that's what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. So you have a great analogy regarding dealing with emotions about a trash can. Can you tell us about the trash can?
Okay, so I'm a very visual person. So when I start to have a feeling, I will usually get some sort of image to attach to it. And when I was really struggling with my emotions and had stuffed them down for a really long time, when I would be struggling with them, I would get this image of a trash can, and it would feel like the trash can was like right here, which, I mean, you think of where your soul is, like it's right there, Mm-hmm. And I would get this image of this like metal trash can, the kind with the lid that just kind of sits on top. Mm-hmm. And in that trash can, it was just full of like yucky, rotting trash that had been there for like a long time. And it was, decomposing. It's really gross. And what would happen is it was stuffed so full that when things would come along in life to, we call them triggers, to bump into that trash can, so to speak, feel like the lid would kind of rattle off, or just maybe, I'd be watching like a commercial or hear a song that made me feel emotional, and I would have a very extreme emotional reaction to that. And it felt like that lid was just kind of rattling off and all the trash was starting to fall out of it. Well, it's kind of embarrassing because the person who you just reacted to, or the situation you just reacted to, it was unwarranted. It was too much. It was over the top. And so it's embarrassing. So think about like picking up your trash. Oh, I'm so sorry. And putting it back in, or blaming the person who bumped into your trash can.
Right.
Saying like, why did you bump into my trash can and make my trash fall out? But really they triggered you unknowing. They just said something or did something, and you felt attacked. So you blew up, and they're sitting there like, wait, what? I don't understand what happened here.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So let's talk about modern day Pharisees.
Okay. So, I think that we can relate to that, all of us, whether we've experienced being one ourselves or know people who have. Mm-hmm. So think about someone who is just trying really hard to do everything right. They sometimes, if you're interacting with this person, you can almost feel like you don't even have a place around them, because they are just, they're trying so hard to do everything right. They could be very critical. Mm-hmm. So they're trying so hard to do everything right that they are just watching everything they do, everything you do, and you just feel like you can't do anything right around them. It's almost like that they're trying so hard to make everything right that maybe this will make them feel better, or make everyone else around them feel better. Because okay, so thinking if you did good enough, like some examples of like maybe if I gave enough money or donated enough things to charity, or maybe did helped everyone you saw that needed help, that maybe you could feel better about yourself too. Oh wait, I'm talking about being a do-gooder. I don't know.
Well, that's part of it
I know
too.
what I was gonna say. Yeah, I know what I was gonna say. Back to the Pharisee. Okay, if you think about someone who's judging someone very harshly, someone with a very critical spirit on them, why are they doing that? I mean, if you think about like judge someone else before they judge you, you're judging yourself so much. You're afraid. It's just like this vicious cycle. I'm judging you. I'm afraid you're judging me. I'm judging myself, and there's just like a ton of judgment going on. Mm-hmm. So now we can talk about the do-gooder. So
yeah, well, I want to talk about the Pharisee too, because that is something I struggled with for the longest time. And honestly, I was very critical of myself mostly, but also other people. And I just thought that it was a character trait. I just thought like, well, I have a critical eye, and that's good because it makes me good at business and the things that I have to do. But what I didn't realize is that it was really ruining the relationships around me and causing strain with the relationships I was in, my family, my closest friends, coworkers, all of that. And last summer, it was revealed to me that I had a critical spirit, and I was able to get rid of that. And every once in a while it creeps back. I mean, it's very difficult to make a change that never come, for something like that you've been your whole life not to ever come back. But for the most part, I catch myself now and ask like, okay, what's going on? Why did this happen? And I'm more aware of when I start to get critical, what's really going on inside. And that's what the whole emotional journey is about, is figuring out why you're having these emotions that you're having in the first place. Mm-hmm. So now you've already talked a little bit about the do-gooder.
Yeah, just trying to do enough. Like, mm-hmm. I felt like I was always trying to do good. Like, yeah. I mean, I used to foster animals and do everything at church that needed to be done. If there was something that needed to be done, well, then I would just do it, right. Because I wanted to do all the things, and I wanted to feel worthy, and I felt like I would feel worthy if I was doing all the things.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads into talking about people that have like a savior complex. And this is something I was really, really bad about doing. If I would see someone who was struggling, I always thought that I had to help them. They were having a hard time. It needed to be me. I needed to help them. I either needed to be able to have a resource or a word of encouragement or a Bible verse or some sort of great advice. I didn't realize that sometimes people just want to talk about their feelings. They just want to express their frustrations. Right. And that it's not my job to have the solution. It's actually the Lord's job to have the solution. Mm-hmm. So I just sometimes need to be a listening ear and not try to make myself feel better, because that's what the Savior wants to do. They want to feel better, right. And they want everyone else to feel better. If we can all just feel better, right. Everything will be okay.
Yeah. Well, and, going back a little bit to the do-gooder, well, even in it being, a savior, if you are a Christian, a Christ follower like we are, then that is something that you really feel pressure in the church to do. And I don't think that anyone has meant to put this much pressure on us, but somewhere along the way, we felt like if we're a good Christian, we're going to mark off all these boxes. And what we've been realizing is that God loves us no matter what we do for him. And I know that some people are going to balk at that because we feel like, no, we have to do X, Y, Z, but there is no checklist. There is no thing that can make you good enough. And really, if you think about God as your father, which he is, and then think about how you are with your children, do you have these expectations? Do you have expectations on them for you to love them? No, you love them unconditionally. And that's how the Lord is with us. And I'm not saying that gives you a license to just do whatever you want. However, we don't have to do everything that everyone else expects of us. We need to do what he expects of us, and that there's everyone has a small voice inside of them. Sometimes you hear, you think it's your thoughts, but a lot of times it's not necessarily your thoughts. It's the Holy Spirit speaking to you and telling you what you need to do. And if we would listen to that instead of everyone else, man, well, when we did start doing that, our lives changed drastically.
Yeah, and I had to come to realize that if I was trying to do everything, that I might be doing the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it's just that the Lord has someone else who's going to fill that need or bless that person or have the word. And I don't need to step in. And if I'm stepping in out of line, just because I think it's the right thing to do or I should, then I could be actually getting in the way.
Right. Yeah. And, sometimes God's trying to teach us a lesson. And if you go save someone out of their situation, well, then they didn't learn what they were supposed to. Or like she said, it may be someone else's job. And I know that I've really struggled with that, especially with my kids and even in ministries and things, of doing everything because I felt like it had to get done and I wanted it done right. So I would just do it myself. And that really makes other people feel like they're inadequate when you do that. So that's been a hard lesson to learn. Mm-hmm. So have you ever gotten burned out?
Yes. I think that being, having the savior complex and wanting to save everyone and do everything instead of getting me really burned out. I mean, I was just, maybe you can relate, like you're just done trying, done serving, done loving. You have tried in your own strength to be okay, to serve the Lord, love others, work hard, move forward, but you're just done. And I felt so angry. And that's part of what the junk that was in my trash can is. That's what would blow up on people is I just was like, the phone would ring and I'd want to throw it through a window. Like I didn't want to work. I mean, I knew I needed to work, but I didn't want to work. I hated my job and I hated I hated every task I had to do. I get up and like, I have to do this and I have to do that. And I tried to be grateful and I tried to be positive, but I was so burned out because I had been doing all of this stuff in my own strength without taking care of myself. I didn't take care of myself at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been there too. So what does taking care of yourself look like?
So I think self-care is very different than maybe we've been conditioned to think, not that self-care can't be things like, a girl's night out or, coffee with a friend or reading a book or a pedicure or whatever, facial. It's not that that's not self-care, but that's just a very shallow version of what self-care maybe could be. You really need to spend time digging deep and processing things, spending time with the Lord. One thing that really woke me up last year, I heard was actually my kid's youth pastor say, talking about going to camp. He said, even Jesus got away. And man, I felt like, when he said that, I thought, wow, like who do I think I am? I'm like, I don't have time for myself. I don't have time for myself. I don't have time for this. Because I'm busy. If Jesus got away and spent time with the Father, listening to him, talking with him, who am I to think that I don't need that, know?
Well, and isn't that like in our industry, as realtors, we feel like we have to be on 24/7. Mm-hmm. And we've set a precedent for other realtors that they have to be as well. And that's something that, thankfully, Randy and Jessica and Stephanie are upline team with the Mega Agent Collective, they have really been showing us how to set boundaries and how to not burn ourselves out. But our industry is terrible about making you feel like you have to constantly be on. It's like a badge of honor that taking a selfie, I'm working through dinner, or I'm on vacation writing a contract. We should be able to go on vacation and completely unplug and not write a contract or not answer a phone call. But we're so afraid to tell our clients that we have a life because they don't like that. And I think there's definitely a balance there. But if we don't take care of ourselves, and we can attest to the fact that we weren't taking care of ourselves. And in the second full year for me of real estate, at the end of it, I worked hard. I made a lot of money, but I was completely burnt out. And like Christen said, hated my job and was just ready to quit. And then we stumbled upon Jessica and Randy which completely changed our business. And at the same time, started learning about emotional health and self-care and all of those things.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we say get away, I mean, it can just be 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, whatever you need. And if you have to get up a little earlier or just, in the middle of the afternoon between appointments, just go park somewhere with lean back in your car with your earbuds or just something, just a time to reflect, to recenter, to take a breath. And, there's all different types of way that you can do that. You find the thing that works for you. But also too, she talked about us finding mega moms and, a good group of people around you. We talk about Jesus got away. Jesus also had a group of people around him.
Yeah.
I know that the Lord has put some people around me in my life, and they are my prayer partners. They are my support system. And also they hold me accountable when I'm thinking wrong or being wrong. Sometimes they say it to my face, but if they can't say it to my face, they're definitely going to the Lord and being like, you need to do something about her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even you hear that the 5 people around you are the people you become like. And so it's very important to put people around you that are encouraging you to take care of yourself. If you have people around you constantly demanding more from you
or making you feel bad if you take time for yourself.
Yeah. Well, then maybe you need to reevaluate how much time you allow them to have in your life. And I thought I was an extrovert and spent a lot of time with people constantly with other people. And then I realized also last summer that I didn't really like myself. And that's why I didn't want to spend any time by myself. And so as I healed that critical spirit and began to see myself as the child of God that I am, now I actually like myself and I like being alone just by myself. So if that's something that you're struggling with and you don't ever want to be alone, or you have scheduled every minute of your day, then you may dig deep and ask yourself, why do I not want to spend any time alone? Why do I feel like I can't? Because you may be running from something that you're not even aware of.
Yeah. And I think that, sometimes this wasn't ever an issue for me as far as rejecting opportunities to have people around me, kind of wanting to go solo. But I know so many people who have struggled with this. They just kind of, they reject people. They want to be alone. And because we talked about, part of self-care is like having a group of people with you. And what I found in talking with those people is that they've been wounded in the past by people, and they have this wall up because they're afraid of rejection. They have trauma, and so they're trying to protect themselves. And if they're afraid if they let people back in, that they're gonna get hurt again. And I think sometimes all of us, if we're really honest with ourselves, we're even afraid God's going to let us down too, like to fully put our trust in him and spend that quality time alone with him as part of our self-care.
Yeah.
We're afraid that even he'll reject us
or
let us down.
Yeah.
Especially because going back to not, feeling okay with yourself, not liking yourselves. We think if we don't like ourselves, God's not going to like us. He's not going to want to be with us either.
Right. So how do you think social media affects our emotional health?
So we just had a conversation about this over the weekend. I think that we have our trash can here, and it's just full of junk. Whether we acknowledge it or not, we're living with it and we're feeling it. And that affects our emotions and how we feel, but it also gives us a filter of how we see everything else around us. And social media is a constant influx of other people's highlight reel.
Right.
And so, you see them in their, beautiful homes. It's clean. Everything looks good. You see them on vacations, and you see them, with their families, like extended family for holidays and get-togethers and vacations, and everything just always seems so perfect. And it can make you feel even worse about yourself because you're like, man, they got it together, or they have it easier, or why can't my life be like theirs? And so then we try to maybe replicate that, You want to talk? You want to say something about that?
Yes, I do. She knows what I'm going to say. So I had an aha moment this weekend. I have really needed a lot of downtime and alone time in this season of healing. And my parents invited us over for July 4th, and I just really wasn't. Our other friend had wanted to do something, and I just really didn't feel like being around anyone doing anything. I just wasn't. I didn't have the emotional capacity to go anywhere. And, halfway through the day, I was looking back at pictures and seeing other people's, celebrations and stuff. And I was telling Kristen that at first I wanted to be like, oh man, I should have just sucked it up and gone to do something. I would have had fun. And then I saw a picture of an event with friends, and it looked like we were having a really great time. But Kristen had reminded me a couple days prior to that that last year on the 4th of July, I was in a terrible mood. I was upset with everybody. And I was like, really? I don't remember that. And then I saw the picture and I was like, it looks like we're having a great time. And she's like, yeah, but you were upset. Everyone was in a bad mood. It was miserable. And I was like, oh, well, then I thought about it, and I was looking through all of my memories. We had actually been out of town that whole weekend, probably an extended weekend with family, doing a family reunion. We had driven 4.5 hours that day back home. And then as soon as we got home, we got ourselves ready and went over to her house for July 4th. So no wonder I was in a bad mood. I really needed to rest from vacation, but I didn't want to miss out on a party or what was happening, or my friends didn't want to have FOMO. So I made myself go, but I was already over everything by the time I got there, and I made everyone around me miserable. And so the best thing for us to do sometimes is to ask ourselves, like, is this best for me today? And yeah, you're going to disappoint some people. I know some people were disappointed that we didn't have, we didn't celebrate July 4th together, but I knew what I needed to do for my own mental health. And it's just really important to do that. And the next day when I got up, at first I felt guilty for not just powering through like I always do, but I was in such a good place because I had spent so many days by myself, and I was ready for everything that this week is going to bring. So it's really important. And that was such a good reminder to me that pictures can be deceiving. Yes. And we don't even remember.
In your own life.
Yes.
Yeah. And, I think that one thing to remember when you see people who they look like they're having a great time, that we all have that emotional trash can full of junk. And, that's why sometimes people can be difficult, and you're like, why is that person so hard to have a relationship with? Why is this person so hard to do a business transaction with? Because we all know those other agents that we see their name and we're like, no, not them, just because they're so difficult. And we can have difficult family members, people that we just can't get away with. We end up having to spend holidays and stuff with them, and they're just difficult. And we think it's them. We get angry with them. But the truth is they have their own trash can that's full of trauma and pain and all the same stuff that you're carrying around.
Right.
And they're also trying to keep that lid on. They're also trying to keep his stuff down. So, when they give you an attitude or maybe push you away, or, they're just trying to protect themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So how does someone start on an emotional healing journey?
Well, I think it'll look different for every person. I know for me, I finally had to just accept that that trash can was there. And it was very scary to think about starting to unpack it, because I had a feeling there's some stuff I didn't want to deal with in there. And that's why I had stuffed it way down there.
Yeah.
And so, I think kind of what unlocked it for me is I started doing very strategic, specific prayer. And Priscilla Shire has a book called Fervent. And I think she actually wrote the book based off of the movie. After she did the movie War Room, I think she wrote that book because she saw like how important that was. Mm-hmm. So I read the book and I wrote out my prayers, and I started praying very specifically. And somehow it's almost like that unlocked in me. It made me feel more, I guess, powerful in a sense, like almost like I could start to take on this stuff. I also read a book by Kyle Idleman called The End of Me. And it talks about how we just have to get to the end of ourselves so that Jesus can begin in our life. And that really stuck out to me because I thought, well, I've been trying in my own strength to do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
I've been striving and trying and doing and guarding and stuffing and all of this. And I just needed to get to my end of myself where I'm just done.
Right.
And that was part of it too. You know, and I think like also giving grace to others, realizing like we just talked about, everyone's dealing with their own
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And, you know, there's so many things. Like I was reading some statistics that over 70% of the world's population has suffered some sort of severe trauma in their life. So let's assume that number is even higher. 1 in every 7 children has experienced neglect or abuse. This isn't even mentioning how many, you know, people aren't even talking about it. Like
Right.
those are just the people who actually admit that it happened. And so it really can be overwhelming and astounding how many people are dealing with stuff. And so just giving those people grace, you know, and then I really just began to let the Lord unpack it like a little bit at a time. And he kept bringing to me what I needed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the books I needed to read. I joined a book club. It actually started out as a business book club, developed into like a self-healing, inner healing, where we read books. I listened to podcasts, I listened to sermons, and the Lord just kept bringing me what I needed. When I was willing to start this journey with him, he brought me what I needed. And actually, I do have a list of some resources that I used that we can actually post later in the comments or something later this afternoon. If anyone wants to reference some of the things that I used. But you want to talk about some of the things that you did on your...
Yeah, so there were several books that I read. I'll post them in the comment section as well. Feelings Buried Alive was really helpful to me. That was a huge, huge help to me. And my chiropractor had actually given it to me years ago, and I just never read it. And then finally started reading it and realized how helpful it was. And then also Emotion Code, you know, working with Ashley, that has been really huge because I've had some major things to work through this year alone. And, you know, even though I have a lot of resources, sometimes you need an outside person or something different. So that has really helped me. And just learning to take all of my concerns to the Lord. And I know not everyone on this listening to this is a believer, but you know, that's a huge part of our life. So it's going to come out when we're talking, but, you know, learning to take everything to him and asking him about everything. And he is a good father and teaches us and shows us. And, you know, he has brought people into my life to give a word or just different books and his word. I mean, so many things. It's really hard for me to even just narrow it down because I feel like the past 2 years, he's just kind of like been fire hydranting me with, is that a word? Fire hydranting? Been hitting me with a fire hydrant like, of help.
Just hosing you down.
Hosing me down with all kinds of things to help me. So, yeah.
Well, you know, and I think that, you know, going back a little bit about, you know, being burned out, I think being burned out is kind of what pushed me to go ahead and start this, because for me personally, I didn't like myself, much less love myself at all. And we're kind of told like that's selfish to love yourself. And I had to accept the fact that it's actually not. You know, I was trying so hard to be this wonderful person, like this great business owner and mother and daughter and friend and all of these things, because I thought that would make me feel better. But really, I just need to love myself first. And we were doing the Bible study, reading the book Spirit Wars by Chris Valentin last summer. And he said something so profound. He said, we can't love others more than we love ourselves. And it kind of took me aback because I was like, I thought we weren't supposed to love ourselves. But then it just started kind of marinating in my spirit. And I was like, you know, that's true. It makes it really hard to love other people if you don't even love yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, how can, you know, the Bible says to love your neighbor. I don't even love myself. So I had to start learning how to love myself. And the first step in that was I had to forgive myself. And what I found when I had to dig a little deeper was that, you know, I was raised to accept God's forgiveness. That was easy for me. I could do that. Okay. I accept God forgave me. I didn't struggle with that. I know some people do, but I didn't.
Right.
But what I had to realize is that I hadn't forgiven myself. I accepted God's forgiveness. And I realized that to forgive myself is actually fully accepting his love.
Mm-hmm.
The enemy of our souls, he wants us to believe that the things that we have been actually victims of are somehow our fault.
Right.
So like the abused child believes that somehow was their fault. If they had been better behaved, less attractive, like they wouldn't have been abused. You see women who are in abusive relationships believe that they had been less annoying or better behaved or whatever, that they
just tried harder.
Smarter, less aggravating, they wouldn't be abused. You see, like for instance, a mother who's lost a child will somehow blame themselves. If they'd have been a better mom, more attentive, more aware, that they somehow could have saved their child.
Right.
And so these are all lies from the enemy, and they are part of what gets in that trash can, blaming. And we have all this unforgiveness towards ourselves. We're blaming ourselves for stuff that's not even our fault.
Right.
And forgiving ourselves just allows the Lord to come in a little bit deeper. When we accept his love for us, then we love ourselves.
Yeah.
And then the love overflows. And that's part of being healed and whole here in your soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I think it's important to point out that I spend a lot of time emptying my trash can. Our time is up, isn't it?
We're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're okay.
I spend a lot of time doing that work, but what I had to also realize is that it's an ongoing process. I think of it like this. You have this trash can, but if you want it to stay empty, you got to take it out every day. And I think about the trash can at my house. If we let that trash can sit there for more than 24 hours, it's going to smell up the whole house. We got to take that trash out. You cannot let it sit there.
Right.
And so you can empty your trash can and you can get full and happy empty and happy of your emotional issues.
Mm-hmm.
Be feeling really good. But if you start to let stuff settle back in, you're going to have the same problem again. And so I think that I think we should talk about some of those things that help you keep the trash can empty, because they're actually things that are counter to how we've been, raised to believe.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to say emotions are real. When you feel an emotion, don't tell yourself, I shouldn't have that. Mm-hmm. That's dumb. It's okay. You need to. Now, how you handle the emotion is one thing. Right. It's okay to have it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's something I had to realize, especially when going through the emotions book. I realized that, that's why I'm feeling that way. And I thought, I just don't need to feel that way. And then I realized, no, it's fine to have feelings. And I think if you were raised like I was, a lot of us were raised in this society that we're just supposed to suck it up. Just suck it up. And we talked about this last time too.
For someone else always has it worse. You can always think of someone who has it worse.
Right.
But it doesn't invalidate our feeling at the moment.
Exactly. So I actually just had this conversation last week with one of our teenagers, and she was like, I don't know if I should feel this way. And I'm like, no, it's fine for you to feel that way. Have your feeling. Go outside and scream about it, whatever you need to do. The problem comes when you take what you're upset about and you attack someone else over it. And I unfortunately have done that to people in my life and have messed up some relationships because of that. But when you allow yourself to have the emotion, let it out however you need to, and then let it go. That's so much better than stuffing it down. I'm just going to be happy. I'm just going to be positive. I'm just going to suck it up. I'm just going to keep going. I've got too much to do. That's what makes us have this overflowing trash can that makes us spew on everyone else. And so learning to deal with the emotion and then ask yourself, why am I having this emotion in the first place? Sometimes maybe you're hungry, maybe you're tired, maybe you're worrying about something, maybe, go through the list of things like, what is really going on?
Maybe
here?
Someone triggered you from a past thing that you need to deal with.
Right.
Even like last week or 2 weeks ago, I had this issue. I was having some back pain and I was asking the Lord, where did this come from? It kind of hit me out of nowhere. What I had to realize is that I was feeling a lot of anger about a certain situation, but I didn't feel justified in feeling angry. So I was trying not to feel angry, but all it did was stuff that emotion in my trash can, which gave me a physical pain. And when I decided to start to talk to one of my friends about that I was feeling angry. And as I just talked about it, And I didn't say anything ugly. I didn't yell. I just was like, you know what? I actually feel kind of angry about this situation. And I just talked. Immediately my back pain started to release because I felt the emotion. I let it out. I acknowledged it. And then I wasn't angry anymore. I just, my back pain left and I just wasn't mad because I just talked about it. I expressed it in a healthy way and then it was gone.
Yeah.
And so, I think we talk about how to process emotions, acknowledge that, talk it out with someone, pray about it, write it in a journal. If you feel like it's something you can't share with someone, write it out, write it down, burn it, hide it, whatever, keep it. It doesn't matter. And I also think that we try not to cry. We're like, why am I always crying? Because, Nicki never wanted to cry. And now she's like, I'm always crying, but she's having healthy emotions. I find I cry so much more now. And it's not a bad thing. Actually, it's scientifically proven that tears released after a stressful situation, they contain the hormone prolactin, which plays a role in our immune system and our body functions. The tears from emotional pain also contain something called, I don't know how to say it, manganese, which is an essential nutrient that prevents blood clotting, skin problems, and it can lower your cholesterol levels.
Yeah.
So basically, like, being called a crybaby could be a good thing. You might just be really emotionally healthy because if a stressful situation happens, then you just cry about it, let it out. Your body has been created to process this in a healthy way. And then you can feel better and move on. And the person who was like, I'm not crying over that, just stuffed it in their trash can.
Yeah.
And it's going to spew out later on someone else.
Well, and that would happen to me. I didn't want to cry about what I was actually upset about. So I would be having to have a confrontation with someone or have a discussion with someone that was difficult for me. And I couldn't even speak because I would start crying. And I wasn't even upset. Like it didn't warrant crying, but because I wouldn't cry about what I really needed to, like I had family members die and I just didn't mourn them because I was too busy trying to make sure everyone else was okay. And I didn't want to deal with it. And so I didn't mourn. Well, then this last year I lost a client and I was very sad about it. I was devastated about it. We were not very close. I mean, we have been working together. Yeah, we've been working together for a year, but I cried for days about her death. And at first I really didn't understand it, but I realized that because I hadn't mourned anyone in my family, like truly mourned them, when I was mourning for her, I was mourning for everybody I had not mourned over. And Kristen will remind me sometimes, make sure you have your emotion about that. If there's something I've had, like I said, this year, I've dealt with a lot of things that have caused lots of emotions. And in the past, I would have just shoved it all down and I would have wound up in the hospital, honestly. So I'm thankful that I have gotten to a place where I can say, you know what, I'm really upset about this. Let me go deal with it and have some emotions about it, pray about it, write it out, whatever. It's different. Every situation has a different response, but I found that when I do that, then I'm able to handle things way better. This difficult things that I've been dealing with this year, I've been able to handle them instead of falling apart or yelling at everyone or making everyone else feel like they have to walk on eggshells around me because how's she going to act today? And that's just, it's not healthy. And if any of this stuff resonates with you, feel free to reach out to us. We are both happy to talk with you. I can even put my calendar up on the comment section. I have options for you to schedule a call. We would be happy to talk with you more about this and also go back and listen to last month's podcast because Ashley has a coaching business and can help you work through emotions as well.
I highly recommend her.
Yeah.
She's just amazing.
Yeah, we work with her regularly and we have our whole family. My husband had a session with her yesterday. My daughter has one coming up. So I highly recommend it for everyone. And she's a beautiful, beautiful person.
Yes. And it actually can be a very healthy first step if you don't know where to start. Which, I think that you can be asking the question, like, what does this have to do with real estate at this point? But I think that what I found is emotional and inner healing can really be the first step in changing the whole world around you. And that involves our lives,
right?
Personal and business. We need to be healthy and whole in every aspect, and we will be better at our jobs. We'll be better in our family lives, better with our friends. all of those things will be better if we're better inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it's important, because it does affect your business. I find that the more I have healed and the more I have dealt with stuff, I'm actually better at my job because I'm not so stressed out. So I can think clear, I can react better. I actually had a lender tell me the day that I am so calm about everything. And I thought, well, okay. I kind of wondered if that was a bad thing, but then he said, no, it's a good thing. And so I thought, well, that's a lot of that's come from me just learning to be still inside myself and deal with my stuff, to where if something gets thrown at me, I'm like, okay, let's figure out a solution, instead of like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world.
Yes.
Because when you're already stressed out and overwhelmed and your trash can's full, everything feels like a huge deal.
Right.
Can't deal with this, because you can't deal with it.
Yeah, and we know that in this business, and especially in the market that we're in, our clients are upset a lot. They get upset that they didn't get the house, or that things didn't turn out the way they wanted. And if we aren't emotionally healthy, then we're going to join them, and we're going to be upset too. And our job is to calm them down and to find a solution to their problem. I mean, really, as realtors, we're problem solvers. And I have found that as I've healed, when my client is upset and we're, all this stuff, I'm able to be calm, not stress about it, not worry about it, and deal with it in a way that actually calms them down too. And like Kristin said, it makes me enjoy my job more because I'm not always like worrying about everything. And I've realized that there's a solution to every problem. So, I mean, if you're that realtor that you call the other realtor and you're like, oh my gosh, we have a terrible problem, we got to fix this now. Like, you definitely need to call Ashley.
Okay, so I have some homework for you. So I don't know, we talked about having a quiet time. I don't know if you have one or you need to start having one, but regardless, whichever way, if it's your first time to like sit down and have some quiet time, I would suggest that you just close your eyes, get somewhere quiet, close your eyes, kind of clear your mind so you can visualize a trash can right here in your soul and think, what do I have stuff in there? Is there anything in there? And start to really just be open to letting yourself unpack that. Let the Lord unpack that. However you're going to do it. What's in there? What's my next step? And start feeling those emotions that have been buried. Let one come out and deal with that one. Deal with that one. That way, when the next one comes up, and maybe that's what you spend your quiet time doing. Okay, what are we unpacking today? What maybe something happened the day before or during the day that triggered you. Okay, something came up. I got exceptionally over the top frustrated or upset about that and didn't feel like that was the right thing to do. Let me reflect on what that was and deal with it. Find a way to let yourself feel that feeling, release it so that you can move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any last thoughts? I think we covered a lot.
No, I think we covered
I
a
know
lot.
this is a little bit longer than a normal podcast that we do, but I feel like the content was important and everything that we had to say was something that, needed to be said. So anyway, thank you. Thank you, Joy. Thank you for joining us, and feel free to reach out to us and we will get those resources put on in the comments later. So y'all have a great day.